Hello to everyone in Steelers Nation around the world watching us on Steelers.com, the Steelers mobile app, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm Stan Savran, and welcome to the introduction of the 2020 Steelers Hall of Honor. Our induction class will be introduced to you very shortly. It's our pleasure to bring in the president of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Art Rooney. Art, welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thanks, Dan, and great to be with Steelers Nation on a momentous occasion here to introduce our class.
This class will be the fourth class of the Hall of Honor. We began in 2017, and I wonder, as you went back and thought about this and conceptualized with your father, Dan, about establishing this, has this reached the level you hoped it would? Have there been some twists and turns along the way, or has it worked out pretty much the way you thought it might?
You know, Stan, I think it's been great. We've been able to recognize some great Steelers, contributors on and off the field, people who really deserve to be recognized in Steeler history, and so I think it's I think it's gone well, and we're very happy with it. And of course, this year we have another great class to add.
I know that you do have opportunity to judge fan feedback. I certainly do. And I'm wondering, have you been able to gauge the fans' reaction, Steelers Nation, to the establishment of the Hall of Honor and the subsequent classes? Do you get feedback? Has it been mostly positive?
Well, there's no question it's been positive, Stan. And in fact, I think the greatest barometer of that is how many suggestions we get for who should be in the class every year. And of course, we get many suggestions, and so there's always, as you know, as being a member of our selection committee, there are always tough decisions to make and more names to consider than we really want to fit in each class. So it's that part of it's been great, and certainly the fan participation has been a fun part of it.
Well, I'm proud to report as a member of the committee, there's never been a fist fight in the rooms when we have some spirited discussions, but we've never come to blows. As we prepare to introduce the class, given the circumstances involving the pandemic this year, did that at all change the process for selecting this particular class?
You know, Stan, I don't think it changed our selection process. Obviously, it's going to change our induction ceremony, unfortunately. We would like to have our induction ceremony when we can have our fans present. And so right now, that's unknown when that's going to be able to happen. And so certainly it's affected that part of this year's class. And hopefully we'll get to introduce them sometime before the season's over. And if not, we'll look at doing it next year as they're doing in Canton.
Well, with that in mind, and on behalf of Mr. Rooney and the entire Steelers organization, it is our great pleasure and privilege to introduce to you the Steelers Hall of Honor class for the year 2020.
Since being founded in 1933, the Pittsburgh Steelers have become one of the National Football League's storied franchises. A tradition built by some of professional football's greatest players, the memorable plays they made, and the championships they won.
And it's a touchdown for Pittsburgh on the Bob the Stallworth.
Starting in 2017, the franchise decided to recognize their legends by creating the Hall of Honor. To be a member of the Hall of Honor is to be a permanent part of Steelers history and to belong to the brotherhood responsible for the team's successes over the last 87 seasons.
One of the great things about this Hall of Honor is that you're going in with guys that you know, guys that you accomplished a lot with, so this is something special.
For players to be considered for induction, they must have played for the team for a minimum of 3 seasons, compiled noteworthy records or achievements during those seasons, and be retired for at least 3 seasons. Coaches and administrators are considered based on significant contributions to the team and community.
To say that you were one of the greatest to ever wear the black and gold, that means a lot to me.
I want to thank all the men in this room that are being inducted with me, because they set a standard for every player that came after them. The expectation was that you had to raise your level to meet that standard.
To date, 36 former players, coaches, and contributors have been awarded the Steel Football that comes with induction into the Hall of Honor. And now, we announce the 5 members of the class of 2020. This year's class includes defensive end Dwight White.
Just matter time. Just matter time.
The defensive end known as Mad Dog came to the Steelers as a 4th-round pick of the 1971 draft and as an original member of the Steel Curtain for 10 seasons. His 46 career sacks still ranks 10th on the Steelers' all-time list. The pinnacle of White's career came at the end of the 1974 season. After spending a week in a New Orleans hospital with pneumonia, White started and played a significant role in the win over the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl IX. He scored the game's first points by recording a safety en route to the Steelers' first of 4 Lombardi trophies in the 1970s. 7 rounds after the Steelers drafted White in 1971, they added a safety from Western Illinois named Mike Wagner. While White and his defensive line mates terrorized quarterbacks, Wagner and his secondary mates picked them clean. 36 interceptions and 12 fumble recoveries accounted for the 48 takeaways Wagner contributed during 10 NFL seasons. The 2-time Pro Bowl selection added 5 more interceptions in the playoffs, including one in Super Bowl IX and another in Super Bowl X. In 1978, Wagner selflessly moved to free safety in order to make room and mentor a fellow member of the Hall of Honor in Donnie Shell. Next up is James Farrior. Farrior arrived in Pittsburgh in 2002, and he would leave with 2 Super Bowl rings and the reputation as one of the best free agent signings in franchise history. Farrior led the Steelers in tackles during 5 of his 10 seasons as a starting inside linebacker. He was voted to the Pro Bowl twice and was a first-team All-Pro in 2004. A team captain and respected leader, Farrior finished his Steelers career with more than 1,000 tackles to go along with 30 sacks, 8 interceptions, and 82 tackles for loss. Representing the era of the 80s and 90s is Greg Lloyd, a linebacker who wasn't hired for his disposition, was in fact employed to attack opposing quarterbacks.
Rush the quarterback.
A force on the Steelers' often dominating defenses of the 1990s, Lloyd accounted for 53.5 sacks during his decade with the Steelers, which still ranks 9th all-time in franchise history. Lloyd was voted first-team All-Pro in 3 straight seasons from 1993 to 1995. He was one of the team's pioneers in mastering the blind side strip sack, as illustrated by the 34 fumbles he forced. Lloyd's passion for the game and his relentless approach will define what it means to be a Steelers linebacker. Rounding out the 2020 class is a Gold Jacket recipient in waiting and one of the most beloved players in franchise history. Statistics alone cannot fully describe Troy Polamalu's impact on the Steelers or the sport he loved. A 4-time first-team All-Pro and one of only 5 players in franchise history to be voted NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Polamalu's acrobatics and signature hair flowing from the back of his helmet were trademarks of his unique playing style. Polamalu finished with 32 career interceptions, and he led or tied for the team lead 6 times in 12 seasons. Polamalu was voted to the NFL's All-Decade Team of the 2000s, and he capped it all by becoming the 9th member of the Steelers franchise to become a first-ballot Hall of Famer. These 5 men have represented what it means to wear the black and gold. 5 men of steel, added to the Pittsburgh Steelers Hall of Honor.
Certainly all the classes that have been inducted prior to this one have all been stellar. Art, this one is just fantastic. 5 tremendous players, contributors to the Steeler legacy. And I'd just like some general thoughts on this particular class.
You know, Stan, I think this is the first time that our class has included only players. As you know, in past years, we tended to have either coach or scouts, in the case of my uncle and Bill Nunn, the 1 year. So I believe this will be our first year where we're inducting only players, people that actually their contribution was on the field. And, I think that's great. It recognizes, what a great number of players we've had. And, of course, this year we recognize two sets of teammates, Dwight and Mike Wagner from the 70s, and then Troy and James from the 2000s. Both sets of teammates played on Super Bowl championship teams. And then you have Greg Lloyd in the middle there, and Greg was a significant player in the Bill Cowher and Chuck Noll eras. So really a great class, and really excited to have our fans see this group come out.
One of the things that really strikes me, given the legacy of the Steelers, and look, there have been some fantastic Hall of Fame offensive players, but it strikes me, given the perception around the world about the Pittsburgh Steelers and the brand of football that they play, that all 5 inductees this year are defensive players. It's kind of fitting.
Yeah, I agree, Stan. I think that over the years, we become known as a team, a franchise that has always put strong defense on the field, and certainly some of our most significant players in history have been defensive players, and I guess that's as it should be as Steeler football has evolved.
And lastly, Art, taking us inside the selection process, clearly, these were all great players. They all contributed mightily. But in the consideration, I think fans might be interested to know, how much do you take into consideration a player's character, his contributions to the organization, just outside of the mere football playing part of it?
Well, Stan, I think that's certainly part of it. Something that I think all of our committee members consider, the quality of the person, that goes into really being a good teammate. And so I think in terms of evaluating somebody and their contribution to our team, certainly what kind of teammate they were, I think has a big impact on it. And all 5 of these guys were great teammates, and the kind of guys you wanted to have on your team and play next to, no matter where you lined up.
Well, it's like Chuck Noll said, you win with great players, but you also win with great people, and that certainly has been the case over the years. And as far as the induction, Art, I guess we're just going to have to wait and see how things play out.
We are, Stan. We're keeping our fingers crossed that at some point this season we'll be allowed to have fans back into Heinz Field, and if that happens in October or November sometime, then we'll look into trying to schedule an induction ceremony.
Well, let's hope it's soon. Art, thanks so much on behalf of everyone for participating today, and congratulations on the class of 2020.
Well, congratulations to our class, and we hope to see them in Pittsburgh in person sometime soon.
And we are thrilled to welcome in 2 members of the great Hall of Honor class of the year 2020, continuing the great linebacker tradition of the Pittsburgh Steelers, Greg Lloyd and James Farrior. Guys, I knew that you were informed of your individual honors, but you're not aware of who else is in the class. So if you'd like to congratulate one another, by all means, please go ahead.
Hey, congratulations, James, man. Well deserved.
Thank you, brother, and same to you, man. You were definitely one of the players I looked up to, man, when I was coming up. So it's definitely truly an honor to go in with you.
Well, you guys took the cup and you ran with it, man, and you did something with it. So, it made what we did, it made it worthwhile.
Oh, man, appreciate that. Those sincere words coming from you, man, always good, man.
Greg, I want to start with you. I'm going to go age before beauty here, if that's okay, with not that much of a difference, but somewhat. Just if you can, Greg, describe what this means to you to be inducted into the Steelers Hall of Honor.
Well, I'm kind of at a loss for words. I think when I got informed by Art. It was a funny story. Hopefully I can make it short. And I got a phone call. It was a missed call, and it was a 412 number. I said, that's a Pittsburgh number. Let me call it back. I called it back, and it's like Art Rooney's secretary. And I was like, okay, I got the wrong number. And so I hung up, and then she called me back. And she said, Greg, do you have time to talk to Art? And then I started thinking, okay, I felt like I was in 11th grade, and now I got to go see the principal because now I got to talk to the owner, Art, and I felt like, a kid. So it's like, sure. And then, when he said what he said, I was like, okay. I thought I was in trouble. I didn't know why he was called. So we laughed about it, and stuff like that. And, he told me what was going on. And I was just, I was really tickled because, it was like in that name of Hall of Famers that are in that hall in that first group. And then, the other guys that were going in, the Wagners and Dwight Whites, and stuff like that. It was like, what, that is something else. And I think being in Pittsburgh and understanding when you get there, when I first got there, what that Steeler defense was about, what Steeler football was about, was implanted in me and imputed in me by one of the greatest, was Joe Green, who was coach there. And knowing how to practice and knowing what to do, being intimidated, when you're on the field, as well sometimes off the field, you have to do that to set precedents. And I thought that was, the whole time I was there, that's what I wanted to resonate, about playing Steelers, whether we won or whether we lost. When you got done, you're going to know you were in a fight. It was black and blue. And, if you won the game, you definitely were going to lose the war because, you didn't want to come back to Pittsburgh anymore. So that's what I wanted to leave there. And to be in the hall says that, I did my job.
Well, you personified the kind of defense that has been played around here for decades and continues until today. We're going to talk about that in just a bit. And you continued that legacy and frankly enhanced it as you went along. James, you came along a few years later, but let me ask you initially, when you got word that you had been selected for this class, what were your initial reactions?
Well, it's kind of a similar story to Greg's. And I see the 412 number, and I usually don't answer my phone if I don't have the name saved in the phone. But I saw it was from Pittsburgh, so I said, "Let me see." And I heard the voice and knew who it was right away. And then, just like Greg said, I thought like, "Oh no, what's going on? Why is he calling me?" And then when he told me the news, I was just speechless. Like Greg said, man, it pretty much, when you think of the history of the team and the legacy of the players and the organization, and what a great town to be in, and all those things put together, and you think about the group of guys that you're going in with, it's really something special.
I want to ask you some individual questions. Greg, I'm going to go back to you. The expectations for a 6th-round draft choice out of Fort Valley State under normal circumstances would not be great if you were making odds. And for you to go from where you started and where you are today, does it even make it more remarkable? You weren't a number 1 draft choice like James was with the Jets. What a journey you've had. And I wonder if that has or continues to register with you.
Well, absolutely. Coming in from, you said, mentioned my college, Fort Valley State College, HBCU. And the thing of it is, coming from, about college football in the NFL wasn't, in some people's mind, it wasn't as good as D1 and things of that nature. So right away, when you hear that, it's almost like you got something to prove. And, shouldn't have to when you have the, the Mel Blunts and you have the Donnie Shells and, and the John Stallworth that have come, through Pittsburgh along with, other guys. But the thing was, you play with a chip on your shoulder. But you think about the beginning of my career, it really should have ended in the beginning. My second day or first day of training camp, I got my knee torn. I had total reconstruction knee surgery. How many people have total reconstruction knee surgery and return and play football? And the very next year, the very last game of preseason, I tore my ACL in my right knee. So right then, I'm a liability to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And all I can remember was the very first time, when I was in the hospital, the very first person that came to see me was the chief. I met the chief in the hospital with my leg up in the air. I didn't know that he knew me. I didn't know who he was. But when he left, I kind of like, okay, I know who he is. I seen that face on some, some billboards and some things around, around the stadium. So my thing was, I had a lot to prove. I had to prove to the Pittsburgh Steelers that I wasn't a liability, that I was an asset, and that, being drafted in the middle round, not a lot of pressure. It gives you time to, get yourself together. But, again, I have they spent a lot of money, kind of putting me back together. And all I wanted to do was just prove that I could play. I just wanted to prove that, I was capable of playing at a level that was higher than I played in college. I was kept playing at a level that the David Littles and the Brian Hinkles and, the Dirk Winstons and, those guys were playing at even level that Chili Cole and those guys had Sept. And that was my thing. And I wasn't going to stop until I proved that. And, it's like every year I seem to have gotten better and I've gotten better, but it wasn't enough. And it was like, can you be the best at this? And then you look around and you go, well, there's Lambert and then there's Hammer and then there's Andy Russell. How can you play a game, and match up with people when they mention these guys' name, they have to mention your name also. And that was my driving force, when I was there. All of the other accolades and things of that nature were good, but leaving a legacy behind, to me, is more important than pretty much anything you can do. And Pittsburgh has a history of that with linebackers, and to be a part of that is just, it's amazing. It's almost mind-boggling to think, like you said, like I said earlier, that, this almost never was. It really almost never was. And now, you're talking about, the Hall of Honor and things of that nature, and there's a lot of guys, I'm sure, that, are well deserving to be in there, but to be picked, to go in, is just, like I said, it's phenomenal. Like I said, I can name some guys that I play with, and I think, some are passed on now, and some guys are, doing their own things that I think, should definitely be in there, but that's just my opinion. But to be picked, like I said, it's an honor, and I just thank Pittsburgh and the guys who chose me, to do this for for doing this. I just thank them for it. And like I say, it's just an honor. It's almost undescribable. You almost don't have the words to put it in perspective what it is. But it is definitely, one of the great honors of my life today.
We're going to get to some of the players, one in particular that you played with, and I remember in training camp, Chuck Noll just raving about you, and Chuck didn't do a whole lot of that. I'm sure you'll remember. James, your circumstance was different. Number 1 draft choice out of Virginia with the Jets. Kevin Colbert and Bill Cowher signed you 2002. Whatever happened with the Jets, did the transformation from outside linebacker to inside linebacker, did that make you feel more comfortable? And what was the discussion when they did decide to move you inside in the 3-4?
Well, definitely when I decided to sign with Pittsburgh, well, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Coach Cowher for giving me a job. Because, I was a free agent at the time going through the process, and, it was training camp was pretty much around the corner. I hadn't signed with any team, so they gave me a chance and gave me a shot, and, to be in this position now is overwhelming. And, I really haven't been able to digest it all and think about everything that, I've been through throughout my career. And Pittsburgh was definitely a place that changed. I think it changed my attitude about football, and being around those guys and being in that locker room and around the culture just changed the way I felt when I went out on the football field, and it showed up, in the way I played.
You were a part of some great defenses, obviously 2 Super Bowl defenses. They were tremendous, and there was an amazing cast around you, James.
Oh my goodness. I mean, there's so many names I can't even, I don't even want to start to even try to mention anybody's name, but that the teams that I were a part of were some of the best teams that, I could have ever been imagined myself being a part of. And, winning 2 Super Bowls, that just was icing on the cake. But, Coach Cowher used to always say it's not about it's always about the journey. And, looking back on our careers now, it is definitely all the moments that lead up to the spectacular moments at the end. And, all those moments I would cherish for the rest of my life. And, being a part of the Hall is something that, I don't think it can get any better than this.
Well, they may have made you slightly better. You made them a lot better as the leader and the captain of that defense. And Greg, I want to get back in the same vein. A couple of years ago, Kevin Green came back, inducted into Canton automatically in the Hall of Honor. And at the Hall of Honor induction dinner, I did an interview with him, and he immediately pointed out to you being on the other side, quiver and quake. And he said he couldn't have done what he did as a Steeler without you. And I would imagine that he, Kevin Green, a Hall of Famer and a Hall of Honor member, meant the same to you as you did to him.
Absolutely. I mean, Kevin and I, we're still good friends. He called me more than I want him to nowadays. But, he's a good friend of mine. But we are just like, I said, when Kevin came in, I think it was one of the missing links, that we needed. And, big boost, here's a guy who can go get the quarterback. Here's a guy who, he had a work ethic that was, second to none. And, we had that. But we had some missing pieces of the puzzle. And he was a big part of it. And, I was just thrilled to have him. I mean, our personalities were very, very similar, even though they were different, but they were very similar. We both wanted to win. We both wanted to, every time we lined up on the field, we felt like nobody could block us. And we just fed off of that. We even had, we had some casual bets about who's going to do what, who's going to do this, and, to keep it friendly. Sometimes, you take the sting off of, the excitement off of it, or sometimes just being nervous. We would do things like that. But, Kevin is well-deserved of the Hall of Fame, of course, in Canada, of course, the Hall there. But, I think he was one of the members of our defense, for a long time that, he just made it so much special. It was just a group of special guys that you just thought, hey man, thank you guys for letting me play with you guys. And I know some people go, hey, listen, Greg, you were the leader. No, I don't think there was a leader out there. I think we had a bunch of captains, a bunch of generals on the field that just knew what was going to happen and held everybody accountable for everything they did. And that's the way it went. Everybody kind of had equal share in what was going on. And Kevin was a really big part of that. I mean, I think we saw our sacks really go up when he came in, because I think that's what, they brought him in there to do. But, great friend of mine. Like I said, he's got a lot of time on his hands, so he spent a lot of time calling me. And like I say, I told him that's a little bit too much. I don't want to talk to him that much. But, just a great guy. And like I said, he is well deserving, like I said, again, of the gold jacket and of the Hall. But I'm as much in admiration of him as he has spoken about me.
He wasn't the only Hall of Famer on that team. Some guy named Woodson was with that group as well, not the only Hall of Famer. But guys, let me finish with this. You both played on fantastic defenses, and it's only 2 games into this particular season, and we're probably shy of talking Steel Curtain or maybe even one of your defenses, James, or yours, Greg. But this 2020 Steeler defense has all the makings of a great defense. They're as fast a defense, I think, as I've ever seen in covering the Steelers for 45 years. I wonder if you've had a chance to see any of this group's Steelers games, and James, what you think of this particular defense.
Like you said, they have all the pieces in place, and the first thing that jumps out at you when you're watching them is their speed. And like you said, when you have that type of amazing speed, it allows you to do a lot of things, and they're going to be a dangerous team. I think the more time they spend together, the more time they are out on the field, gelling together, is just going to all come together. And sky's the limit for this group. I think they had the potential to be probably one of the best ever.
Greg?
Well, I haven't watched a lot of it. Again, I get a lot of what happens in football from my good friend Kevin Green. And I think during one of the games he called me, he texted me and said, man, did you see, J.J. Watt and the other outside linebacker meet in the backfield and almost kill the quarterback? And I'm going, no, I didn't see it. I'm not watching it. But, I think when you start a comparison, I think anytime you start, comparing teams, you have to, give it a little bit of time. And I kind of echo what James says, with speed, comes preparation. You can play extremely fast if you're prepared. There's no hesitation. So it sounds to me as if Coach has everybody locked in with what they're supposed to do with all of their, they're doing all the right things in the classroom. And that allows you to fly around and play fast. And as long as they can do that and prevent any kind of injuries, then the sky's the limit of what these guys can do. Of course, I bleed black and gold here in this Falcon country, but I bleed black and gold. And so I want them to do well. And I feel like if I watch Pittsburgh, they do bad. When I don't watch them and I come back and see the score, they've won. So I don't want to jinx them. So if I turn and they're winning, and it's like, okay, and then all of a sudden something happens, I like, okay, I got to turn it off, and I just go and do something. I come back and I look at the score and I go, okay, they won. Okay, so that's how I am. So I'm kind of superstitious about that because, playing in that defense, you see some things that you think can be better and can be done better. And I don't ever want to be an armchair linebacker or quarterback or anything like that. So I let them have fun. Hey, listen, man, these guys, like I said, I want them to run around and, and play fast and have fun. And, if they can be the best defense ever, and I say kudos, go for it.
Well, if you feel like you not watching helps the Steelers win, I'm sure everybody in Steelers Nation watching us worldwide right now would be more than happy to send you a text and let you know how things went. If you can maintain that discipline. Guys, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to do this today. Again, Steeler Nation all over the world is going to be able to see this and is watching this as we talk right now. And on behalf of everyone, sincere congratulations, well-deserved and well-earned. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And again, Steeler Nation, the normal induction ceremony held at a game at Heinz Field and subsequent ceremonies, as Art Rooney said a little bit earlier in our program, we just don't know. Everybody understands that it's a rather fluid situation. Hopefully that we'll have the induction ceremonies, but we invite you to follow your Steelers app on Facebook, YouTube, Steelers.com for all the updates and further information. All of us, thank you sincerely for being with us.
Won the Super Bowl, and Super Bowl 43 is history.